When I write a piece on Bitcoin, blockchain, or digital currencies, it seems to be outdated within hours and sometimes maybe minutes after publishing. Here's an example from last week. I saw that Bitcoin's market cap was around 185 billion, then 2 days later it was 275 billion. This massive growth has attracted not only retail investors but also the regulators. And long waited, and I think it's good for the whole overall industry. Coinbase, which lets you trade digital currencies, now has more active users than Charles Schwab, the second biggest brokerage firm after Fidelity. Why is Coinbase so popular? Because it's so simple to open an account. It can take up to 2 weeks to open an account at Schwab, where you can open a Coinbase account in just minutes, as quickly as creating a Tinder account, which all the millennials like to use for dating. Now, let's go back to this famous president. President Ronald Reagan once said that the government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops breathing, subsidize it. After a months-long pushback, Coinbase agreed at the end of November to turn over the identities of 14,000 of its users to the Internal Revenue, the IRS. They asserted that only 850 taxpayers reported Bitcoin earnings between 2013 and 15, and the IRS initially wanted access to all 13 million Coinbase users. So I would call this as a win for both parties. You might think that the IRS crackdown on Coinbase would discourage some potential Bitcoin investors. However, I would argue that the IRS incident is actually constructive for Bitcoin. In fact, I would argue that most of the recent growth, this exponential growth in Bitcoin, are honorable, tax-paying citizens that will be reporting any gains they've made in these cryptocurrencies. So I think it's overall good, and if the IRS can go after some scoundrels out there, it's always good to have good refereeing in the capital markets. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week on Frank Talk Live.